It's time once again for the Kennett Indian Coaches Show as we visit with Kennett Indian head football coach Joel Wyatt. And Coach, Indians went on the road last week to take on the Paragould Rams, a back-and-forth ball game. Rams came out on top 42-28, but I don't think the final score really indicates what kind of ball game that was.
Yeah, we definitely played them for a good, really 3.5 quarters. There was a bad stretch there where they scored and got the onside, and kind of stretched the lead there. But 14-14 game. We tied it up there early in the third, and then they went up, I believe, 27-14. But credit to our kids, we went right down the field and scored. Made it 27-20, so it's a 27-20 ball game early in the fourth, and we're right there. A team that blew us out last year, 36-0, and we're right there, one possession game in the fourth quarter, and they just kind of won the battle in the trenches. I think that's pretty evident, whether you're a football fan or not. You could see that they controlled the line of scrimmage, and credit to them. They just stuck with their game plan and were just getting chunks, running the football. Two good quarterbacks splitting carries that ran the ball well, and a big old bruising running back as well, and then a shifty one. So they did some good things, but just like I told the kids, we're not into moral victories around here, but at the same time, I am proud of our guys for hanging in there, and with a break or two, we could have been right there. We didn't lose for lack of effort. We had some silly mistakes and too many offsides penalties, but physically, I was proud of our guys, and we're going to learn from it, and it's a step in the right direction. Again, we want to, we're not taking an L as a great, accomplishment or achievement by any means, but it's one of those games where you don't have anything to hang your head about.
Well, you look at that line of scrimmage and looking at the numbers that Paragould has on the sideline compared to what you have, sometimes it can make a difference late in the ball game when a lot of your guys are playing two ways, and they're rotating guys in and out, and they still have another very big body coming in there to take someone's place.
People just don't understand how that takes its toll on a guy. When you're playing, when you're starting center is your starting Mike linebacker, when you're starting right guard is playing D line, when you're starting left guard is playing D line. And they're rotating guys and not doing those things. It takes a toll on you. Just do the math. When Gaddis and Chris Martin and Joel Lopez are playing over 100 snaps, and the Paragould O-line might be playing 50 or 60 snaps, it takes its toll on you. So it is a big difference. Not only that, it's practice as well. People don't forget that, hey, in practice, it takes its toll, and we might not be getting the scout look that we would get because we can't have those guys on scout team because they're on first team. So I don't know, Paragould doesn't have to go through that issue because even though they do play some kids two ways, but they're not in the same ballpark as we are.
Well, Coach, I think that just it puts a stronger emphasis on your conditioning. And I know this afternoon I saw some guys running out there today. And, that's a strategy that some coaches have. You can continue the conditioning because you need to keep it up. And others kind of drop off from it. But it seems like those that really push on that, it pays off in the long run.
It sure does. Especially with this heat, it's supposed to be a hot one this Friday, and we can't overlook that. And just because you've got them in shape doesn't mean that they can't get back right out of shape. So you got to keep keep your thumb on them, and obviously when the temperature drops, that does help a little bit. But yeah, you still got to condition.
Well, you mentioned you saw a lot of good things, and getting that opening kickoff after they won the toss, and they elect to kick it away to you and defer to the second half. But your guys did what they needed to do: go down the field, put the points on the board. And one thing we're seeing is Austin Gaddis is able to kick that ball through the uprights, and that gives you a nice option.
Yeah, that's been we weren't sure what was going to go on there back in the summertime, and we really didn't put much of an emphasis on it because we had so many other things to do, offense, defense, and other facets of the special teams. And but Gaddis has been pretty good, and our Ruse, our deep snapper, and he's getting better and working on it, and our protection's been pretty solid. But yeah, Gaddis, he knocked a couple through there, and that's crucial in a close game. That made it 14-14, and so yeah, he did a nice job for us, and he had one kickoff in the end zone, so that's been a big plus for us.
You mentioned something that a lot of times that player doesn't get a lot of credit, but that's the deep snapper, either on a punt or on a extra point try or a field goal attempt. If that's off, the entire play is messed up.
Well, that's a thankless job. It's that job that people only notice when it's bad. They'll notice if it's a bad snap, but if it's a good snap, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. If you can find a good one, it's definitely an advantage. I remember my first go around here. I think Jake Stewart was our deep snapper for 4 years, and he was money. So, you get spoiled if you can find a good one, and so it's definitely an advantage to have one that can get it back there.
Yeah, there's more to that than people think. I know one of the deep snappers, I think, for the Chiefs, but there's a certain amount of rotation that his ball has on it before it gets back to the punter or the holder, and there's just hours and hours of repetition to be able to get all of that down.
Oh yeah, that's what it takes, and we've still got a lot to do in that area, but we'll get there.
Well, let's talk about your players. You continue to have some real bright spots, and Ty Jones continues to just really impress at his quarterback position, but also those running backs and receivers. You have an explosive offense, and we're seeing more and more of that, and seems like the offense was a little more in sync in game 2 than they were in game 1.
They were. We had less. Seemed like we had less pre-snap penalties. Less substitution issues. We still had a couple, but that happens when you're going to be multiple and use different personnel groupings. But yeah, they've made a lot of progress, because we're throwing a lot at them. We try to be multiple, and Ty's the trigger man, and he's done a great job. Man, he's a cool customer, man. When he gets pressure, he doesn't get rattled. Man, he stays poised, and man, he's just been a joy to coach. He listens. Never gets too high or too low. He's very even keel, but he does a great job back there for us. I'm really proud of him.
You mentioned that you wanted Ty to be a little more vocal before the first game. Are you seeing a little more of that after a couple of games in the season?
Yeah, a little bit. Still would like him to be a little bit more than he has been, but he has made gains, and so it's coming. We're getting there.
I always like to know who's the talkers on this team. Every team's got a few of them. So
Gaddis is on defense.
Well, he kind of wears that badge.
Yeah,
so.
and he should. He's our Mike linebacker, our signal caller. He gets everybody lined out. Really our offensive bunch is a little bit quiet. When we're watching film or when we're going over something on the whiteboard, well, that's when they like to talk. When they're not supposed to. But we've got to get a little more vocal, but really for the most part, it's Ty back there trying to get everybody lined up.
defensively, the Rams can throw a lot of things with you. And what I noticed was their combination of quarterbacks. You got the tall quarterback that can throw it around, and then the coach's son, who is more of a runner, but certainly can throw it as well. And then you got the big backs, and they use that big fullback also, and it really helps out their offense.
Yeah, they were happy with getting 6-7 yards a pop, and you can't blame them. I mean, they're going to move the chains, and they did a good job and stuck with their game plan of running power and counter and buck sweep, and only really throwing it when they had to. And both quarterbacks were very efficient. I know the one that was in there the first half was the coach's son, and he did a great job. And then they brought in the tall guy, and they didn't miss a beat. They had some really good skill kids out wide, number one and number two that they really didn't get the ball to. They were good defensive players, but they were burners, and but they stuck with their game plan, and really can't blame them for it.
Well, Coach, now you're getting ready for a home game. It's always good to be back home, and the St. Genevieve Dragons will be the opponent. We'll talk about the Dragons and Friday night's football game with the Kennett Indians. Coach's Show continues right after this. 3, 2, 1. Back with the Kennett Indian Coaches Show as we talk to Kennett Indian head coach Joel Wyatt, and coming up a home matchup against the St. Genevieve Dragons. They're currently 2-0 on the season, a 49-35 win over St. Vincent, and then 27-13 win at University City. Still early in the season, it's kind of hard to tell about opponents and scores and know what a team has, but traditionally the Dragons are pretty strong.
Yeah, they're scary offensively. They've got a guy back there playing quarterback. Really, to me, he's like a running back playing quarterback. Fast, elusive, can make you miss, but he keeps you honest just enough with his throwing ability. So, he was an all-district guy last year as a junior. He's a handful. And then they got some good guys at their wings and slots, that they're running on buck sweeps as well and end arounds, and they're very misdirectional in their offensive scheme. So I'm hoping after seeing Paragould, there's a little bit of similarities that's helped us in preparation for these guys. O-line's pretty big. You can tell they're well coached. So, it's putting up 49 points against St. Vincent. St. Vincent is no slouch. Even though they're Class 1, they're a 12-1 team last year. They're a good football team. They got some athletes. And then they played University City. Beat them 27-13. University City was full of athletes, and they held them 13 points. So that in itself was impressive. So we know we got our hands full, but we're excited for the challenge, and we're glad to be at home again.
Well, we had a good crowd go down to Paragould on Friday night, and it was a little harder for us to tell over on the press box side because we're so far away from the field over there, but we could see a lot of Kennett fans over there, and also a lot of Kennett fans that sat on the press box side because they didn't want to make the long walk around the field. So we also had some over there, but that's a big factor for you. I know you want to get a big, loud crowd in here, and it makes a difference.
It does. We've stressed that, through social media and telling your team to get their classmates there, get their buddies there, their relatives and all that, because it does make a difference. And we want it to be the one thing to do on a Friday night in the fall is follow these Indian football players.
Well, the Dragons have to take that long road trip, and from your experiences going up there and playing, it's very important if your team gets off to a good start and that crowd gets loud and into the ball game, it can give you that big home field advantage.
Yeah, we want to get off to a good start, and we have scoring on both drives to start the game. So, knock on wood, we hope that continues. But again, we know it's going to be nice weather. It's going to be a little warm, but at least the rain's going to stay away, and so we hope we have a great crowd.
Well, tell us what you're looking for your Indians in the ball game Friday night.
Well, we've got to be better up front. Myself and Coach Collier, we stress that we got to get better play out of our line, our offensive line and our defensive line. Paragould kind of just bullied us a little bit in the trenches. St. Gen is going to outsize us on both sides there. They've got a big D line, guys that can run too. Guys, D linemen with no bellies. Just look like they're put together and can run. So, we got our hands full there. But I think our guys have pride. I think Friday night against Paragould, we didn't run the ball like we thought we could have, and then we didn't stop the run. So I think that was a little wake-up call. And but we know we've got to be better between the trenches if we want to be able to compete and win this game, and eliminate the big plays. Their quarterback can go, and like I said, they got a wing back that can go. We just can't give them the big chunk. We got to make them drive, and hopefully, they beat themselves when driving the football and have an unforced error or something.
All right, Coach, let's go get them Friday night.
Thank you, Perry. Appreciate it.
All right. Metz-Cherry Stadium against St. Genevieve this Friday night. Get out there early, make lots of noise, and let's get an Indian victory. This has been the Kennett Indian Coaches Show.